Hello, this is Yoko from Team DN here with my rough and dirty P8S P2 guide and explanation. These strats are made on day 2, so please be mindful that many of these can likely be optimized in the future. I made this just to get strats out there so people have some sort of explanation to everything that is happening. It'll go into a lot of detail, so apologies if it's a bit long. The footage will likely jump around in POVs from people in my team to best show certain mechanics. That being said, let's get started. First thing to talk about is the auto attacks from the boss. You need to have both tanks stack on each other as they are shared autos and will very likely one-shot a tank if one of them isn't stacked. Up next is a reoccurring AoE, Iono pair. It's a heavy hitting raid AoE that applies a 10-second bleed to the entire party. The Tankbuster is called Tyrant's Unholy Darkness. This is a very hard hitting Tankbuster that targets the first to an enmity, so make sure tanks are first and second. The next cast is called Natural Alignment. This happens twice in the fight, and this was the first time. It's a very long and hard-hitting dot, on 2, based on rolls. So it can either go to tanks/healers, or on DPS. There's not going to be a mix. Regen on these players is very helpful. My group in particular likes to push these players to the front of the boss for the first cast of it. Once the boss casts Twist Nature, 2 meters will show up on top of one of the natural alignment players. The first meter to show up will either be spread or stack. Later on, it will be ice or fire. Firstly, have anyone who is not the natural alignment stack up to bait ground AoEs. You could have melees on the boss and ranged in the back if you want more room. The first meter to start filling up quickly will determine what mechanic you get. In this case, it's spread. Bait ground AoEs, then go to spread. After the stack spread goes off, there will be a half-room cleave called Ashing Blaze, determined by one of the boss's sides glowing with fire. As the half-room cleave goes off, so will the other meter mechanic. In the video cases, it'll be stacked. One thing to note is that the second mechanic will not have baited ground AoEs. Once that's resolved, there will be clones appearing on the side of the arena. There will always be one safe lane, determined by whichever lane does not have a clone in it. The safe lane is always either the front lane or the second lane. Once they shoot off, they will do the opposite safe lane. There will also be an ice or fire meter showing up on the other natural alignment player, the one who previously did not have a meter appear above their head. Ice is a 3-person stack baited on the closest 2 people, and fire is a paired stack baited on the furthest 3 people. The way that we resolve this mechanic is to send the natural alignment people to the center of the safe lane. You can use the line between the 2 middle tiles for this. We split these mechanics with bias on light parties, but there will likely be an easier way to solve this later. This is just how we solved it during Prague. Since the video's ice first, I'll explain that first. In our case, we had people from each light party get the natural alignment. That means no one has to flex over to complete the 3-3 stacks. Since it was DPS with natural alignment, our group also designated the 2 remaining DPS to be the closest to bait the ice. You can use the tile alignments to have the exact position for baits. In the case that it was 2 natural alignments from the same light party, let's say on Alice, Lovely, and Honey Milk Tea instead of Nyaru, one of the DPS in the light party would flex over to the other one. Once that mechanic goes off, the clones will shoot their beam at the same time and the safe lane is going to be swapped. In this case, the second lane was the first safe lane, so the next safe lane will be the front lane. The second mechanic will be the opposite of the first one. In our case, it's going to be fire next. Fire is 3 pairs baited on the furthest 3 players. We resolve these on the east, west, and northwest safe tiles, using the ground markings for placement reference. For our group, the logic behind who moved depended on the natural alignment roles. In this case being DPS, we would have tank healers anchor the east-west tiles, and the remaining DPS flex to the northwest tile. This would be reversed if it was tanks healers who got the natural alignment. After that, there will be an AoE into Tankbusters, followed by High Concept 1. High Concept is a very hard-hitting raid-wide that will give everyone in the party debuffs. Use a lot of MIT here. For those who have done Omega, this is the Hello World mechanic of this tier. I'm going to start off by listing all the debuffs people get. Firstly, there will be 3 different colored Nisi looking debuffs on 6 people. These are Alpha/Red, Beta/Yellow, and Gamma/Brown/Y, whatever you want to call or however you want to identify them. Then there will be a yellow DNA debuff with 2 people in the icon, and a blue DNA debuff with 3 people in the icon. The Nisis, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, are extremely big AoEs around the player when they expire, around a quarter of the room. I will be referring to them as Defamations. There are 2 sets of them, one short and one long. The short are approximately 8 seconds on application, while the long are approximately 26 seconds on application. When these explode and you take damage from them, either from them being the debuff player or being near it, they will give you an Alchemy Table on top of your head. I'll get back to this mechanic in particular a tiny bit later. The DNA debuffs are stacks, needing 3 people for the blue DNA or 2 for the yellow. This is including the debuff holder themselves. These people will stack with the long Defamations, and you can make this entire phase almost entirely static. In our case, we sent the Alpha/Red Defamation to the northeast, marked by 1, the Beta/Yellow Defamation to the northwest, marked by 2, and the Gamma/Brown Defamation to the southwest, marked by 4. This leaves the southeast to be the safe spot for whenever Defamations are resolved. You will send all the stack people/long Defamations to the safe spot where they will soak the stacks. If you want to copy what we did, we had the long Alpha and Beta Defamations soak with the 3 stacks closest to the east safe quadrant, and the Gamma Defamation soak with the 2 stack of the south safe quadrant. This is an example of the stacks resolving with the long Defamations. This is an example of a short Defamation exploding. Now that the first part of High Concept has been resolved, it's time to go back to the Alchemy Tables that I referred to earlier. When the boss casts Arcane Control, which happens at the same time as the first set of debuffs resolve, 2 towers will appear in the center of the arena, one north and one south. They can be either blue, purple, or green colored, respectively named as Water, Lightning, or Wind. In the case of our clear, we had a water tower. Alchemy Tables work like this. You will have 3 different symbols on your head. For brown, there is leaf, lightning, and water. For yellow, there is potion, lightning, and wind. For red, there is fire, water, and wind. This sounds like a lot of different things, but you can actually just ignore most of them. To resolve these mechanics, you don't actually even need to look at another player. All you need to do is to look at the tower color or element, and then look at your own elements. If you have water, and the towers are water, you simply go to the middle. Someone else will stack with you, and combine those elements to create an animal. The combination process takes a good 3 seconds, so be patient. If you do not have the correct animal and go into the tower, you will get a 20 or so second 30 to 40k dot, so you'll probably die. Here is a good example. Honey Milk Tea had lightning, leaf, and water. Only lightning, water, and wind ever matter for towers, so we can ignore leaf. Since the water tower spawned and he has water, he just needs to go to the middle and call out if he wants the north or south tower. While this is happening, there will be a half room cleave, meaning everyone needs to either be on the west or east side of the room. Those in towers will simply need to be in the tower, but a bit to the east or west of the tower. In this case, the Beta/Yellow Nisi did not combine with anyone, so the players who had the stack debuffs would need to avoid getting hit by the Beta/Yellow Defamation. We simply had the 3 stack person rotate counterclockwise to the nearest Defamation that they needed to get hit by, and the 2 stack person rotate clockwise to the nearest Defamation. The reason for this is because this will allow the 6 players who did not initially make an animal get 2 of each table, allowing for 4 animals to be created of whatever possible color the upcoming 4 towers are. These towers are very simple. We had people who had long Defamation always go to the north 2 towers, while the other 2 alchemy tables would take the back 2. There is another half room cleave during this, so use the area between the 2 middle towers for whatever people need to cross over. Make sure any animals or alchemy do not stack up after the boss comes back, or they'll tether and wipe the raid. The boss will cast Deconceptualize, getting rid of all the alchemy and animals. Up next is another AoE into a cast called Limitless Desolation. You will want everyone to be spread prior to this cast finishing. We had tanks and heals go left on the line between the 2 left tiles, and the DPS go right in a similar fashion. We also made sure to leave the center of the arena clear to allow ease of access. This phase is actually pretty simple. 2 fires will go off on 2 people at the same time, 4 times. It is always 1 tank/healer and DPS. 2 towers will also spawn at the same time, 4 times. The first 2 people that hit, get the first 2 towers, and so on. There will be baited AoEs on the people that get hit a few seconds before the tower is supposed to go off. The resolution for this is actually very straightforward. Since we split the arena, tanks healers will always get the left side, and DPS will always get the right side. There is never a variation that will need people to flex over. When a person gets hit by their spread fire, they will either go to the edge of the arena if their tower is in the outer columns, or to the center of the arena if it's in the middle. Since we leave these areas safe, you will always have a way to drop your AoE and get to your tower. One very important thing to note that makes this phase incredibly easy is that the only baited AoE that actually matters is your own. Even if somebody else drops an AoE inside your tower, you will still be able to take it because it will be gone by the time you have to take yours. Another AoE happens, followed by a Tankbuster. Then Natural Alignment will be cast again. After it's cast, the boss will then cast another thing, Inverse Magics. It's a debuff that might be on 1 or 2 of the natural alignments. All it does is simply reverse the mechanic the natural alignment meter will cast. So if a stack meter is filling up quickly, it'll actually be spread. Same with fire and ice. Spread stack is always first. You'll be doing this in a single lane. Then the opposite. We sent the natural alignments all the way to the left for this just to get them out of the way. Afterwards, it'll be fire/ice. Do these in the exact same way as you did the fire and ice earlier. Just be wary if the person has inverse. After this is a half-room cleave into an AoE, into a Tankbuster. Then it's followed by High Concept 2. Like High Concept 1, this is a heavy raid fight and will give everyone, besides 2, a set of debuffs. The timers are the exact same as the first one, with almost all the positions being the same as well. The only difference is that instead of a 3-stack DNA, there is a solo stack DNA, and the 2 nothings must get hit by the alpha/red Defamation. The solo stack will simply go to the same place that the triple stack went to in High Concept 1, and the long Defamation player with no other debuffs will be going with the 2-stack. The first thing that must happen is the same as High Concept 1, with the Defamations going northwest, northeast, and southwest, and the stacks going to the safe spot in southeast. The two players with nothing will immediately stack close to the alpha/red Defamation and get hit by their explosion, giving them a red alchemy table. They'll stack up and combine to form Ifrit. This has a relatively damaging dot for 30 seconds and should be given some sort of regen. This next part is actually very simple. Nearly everything is static with how we do it. After the Defamations go off, 4 towers in the middle will spawn. It will always be 2 wind paired with either water or lightning. The leftover alchemy will always go between the 2 south towers and pair with the long gamma/brown. The long alpha/red and the long beta/yellow will always go between the 2 north towers and pair together. Fill in the towers as needed. For the 2 people who get the initial towers and the 2 Ifrits, they will go on the outside cardinals of the arena to get tethered by clones on the outside. These are proximity baited, and if you've done Omega 11 Savage, you'll find this very similar. You'll want to rotate clockwise with these to one of the corners and then move down a bit, like in this example. A good way to assign spots for the beta clones is the initial players who took the first 2 towers will get south and east, while the Ifrits will get the north and west. We use body language to indicate which ones we would get, but feel free to do whatever fits your need. After this, you'll want the Ifrits and winds to pair together and stack. I highly recommend the winds standing still and the Ifrits move in to the closest wind, because you'll need every single person fully topped before Phoenix forms. Everyone will be dropped to 1 HP if they're topped. Those who aren't fully topped will drop dead. Don't worry about healing up for the upcoming Ego Deathcast. It does no damage assuming the mechanics are completed correctly anyways. Everyone will be fully topped after the cutscene. Enjoy the cutscene, and everyone will be back with a near 300% damage buff. This is the final phase and essentially a victory lap. This is a big damage and mitigation check. Use pots and buffs here because it's a reopener. The boss will do Aionogonia, which is a big raid wide that puts a short but hard hitting 6-second dot on everyone. Afterwards, the boss will cast Dominion, another very hard hitting AoE that does spread on 4 people, giving them a Valm. This hurts a ton, so make sure everyone is topped and has shields. 4 towers will start to snake outwards from the center, with the 4 people who didn't get the spread needing to take them. After the first set is taken, another set will go out, with the people who got the initial spread needing to take them. Aionogonia will be around halfway through casting by the time the second set of towers is taken. Make sure to quickly top people off and get Mit off. As a side note for shield healers in particular, I suggest using Soil early on the initial Aionogonia cast, as the casts are almost 30 seconds apart, making it very difficult to get the Mit off if you use it late into the cast. A good way to assign towers is by using Heaven's Fall priority, assigning people leftmost tower from 1 to 4, and rightmost tower from 1 to 4, with the right 4 always being the rightmost tower, and the left 4 always being the leftmost. This sequence will repeat once more with the final extremely hard-hitting Aionogonia at the end, before the Enrage cast. Do a lot of DPS, and enjoy your clear.